EA is shutting down 3 games in January 2026 and more games to follow that, which doesn't really speak for a good future for promising games out of Electronic Arts going down the road. But hey, after the Saudis bought him, is anyone really surprised? What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. 3 games are going to be shutting down in January 2026. Anthem, The Sims Mobile, and NBA Live 19. And then later, a few months after that, we got Real Racing 3 shutting down. And you got to ask yourself, at what point are people going to say we've had enough with this? Remember the whole Stop Killing Games campaign that Ross Scott put forward from Accursed Farms and had over 1 million signatures going to the EU trying to get this whole thing overturned, and it seemed to be going the right direction, and now it's getting caught up in red tape with Parliament, and we're just waiting on that? Well, in the meantime, EA is rushing to shut down all their games. I know. Shocking. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and let's talk about the games that are being shut down by Electronic Arts and what this means for the future of the online game space. First off, Anthem. A game that is setting the most dangerous precedent. A game that has always online, meaning if the servers do not exist, the game does not exist. The disc that you purchased and played for the years leading up to this point is meaningless. You can't do anything with it anymore. Do you get your money back from Electronic Arts after this, saying, hey, I bought this product with the expectation of being able to play forever, and now I can't? No, of course not, because there are no rules in place for that. These publishers can create games, develop them, and put them out there, and if they don't do well, or if they're not making the money they expected, they can pull the wires out of the servers and just say, yeah, you know what? Not our problem. Next game. There is zero preservation, zero ownership, and fan petitions are pushing for massive backlash against this. And remember, this is a BioWare game that should concern people because BioWare isn't doing that great, as I've talked about plenty on this channel leading up to this point. But BioWare's Anthem was considered by most gamers to be a catastrophic failure across the board. But EA tried to push forward with it and make something of it. I know there are plenty of people, Atreus comes to mind, that loved the game and had a great time playing it. Even if it didn't meet expectations of what they promised, the game at its core was still fun for what it was, especially after all the patches and updates after the initial completely botched launch. But between Anthem, Mass Effect, Andromeda, Dragon Age, The Veilguard, I mean, we're going on a streak of 3 very expensive, hundreds of millions of dollars to produce games falling flat on their face out of BioWare. And I've said before, even if Mass Effect comes out and is somewhat successful and does good, I don't think BioWare is going to be around much longer after that anyways. I think EA is at the point with BioWare specifically to say, yeah, you know what? We've tried our best. We rode this horse as far as we could, and the games just weren't doing what we needed from them. And because of that, the studio needs to shut down. Hell, at this point, it's a shell of what it used to be a few years ago. It is a skeleton crew of people working on Mass Effect 4 right now. And there's no games in the pipeline after this one. So you got to ask yourself, what are the plans for BioWare if it's not being shut down? And that's just BioWare. Pulling the lens back on EA proper and seeing the other divisions make other games goes a lot deeper than this and has a pattern of destroying these online games just after a few short years, if that passes. EA has abandoned NBA Live, other sports franchises as well. Mobile games are getting delisted before the shutdown, and live service bets are quietly killed. A cost-cutting, not innovation approach to game development is not one that's going to be sufficient for long-term success. And again, I think EA knows this, but after they sold to the Saudis, I don't really think they care. If anything, this is the blueprint to prove to other companies that you don't need to give a shit about your games. As long as you can sell the idea of what it's going to be, have people buy into that, and then sell off while you pull the rug out beneath people, yeah, I guess that could be a blueprint for success. I mean, if you're an executive needing a golden parachute. But as far as the gamers, you're leaving people high and dry right now. There is a massive contradiction going on right now with EA between massive monetization and disposable games. NBA Live 19 is the other game being shut down in January alongside Sims Mobile. And this goes to the point of, if you're going to be buying an annualized series for game, and knowing that it's going to be shut down in the future, it's almost a way for them to monetize and create games that don't even need to exist beyond a year or two. And after that, they are forcing people to upgrade to the next year's game. Imagine back like with the Genesis, with playing, I don't know, NBA Live 95, and your cartridge just all of a sudden the next year is like, sorry, it doesn't load anymore. You need to go buy the next year game for it to play. This is disposable games. This is what EA has turned their entire business into. And because there are no laws or rules against it to prevent taking advantage of their own customers, it's been allowed to flourish in an environment where no one is keeping tabs on anyone in the game industry, which again points to how they seem to go after Ross from Accursed Farms for daring to bring up the Stop Killing Games campaign and say, hey, as a customer to buying these games, I don't think it's very fair for you to create a product and then pull the rug out from people without giving them a place to land with this game. Hell, even allowing them to have their own servers to continue playing it with their friends if they want to. Why is that a bad thing? Oh yeah, because it takes away the control from the developers. And with the control comes the money. And then we come to Sims Mobile, which is shutting down on January 24th, 2026. So between these three games in January, Anthem, January 12th, 2026, Sims Mobile, January 24th, 2026, and NBA Live 19, January 30th, 2026, EA has come forward to tell everyone, hey, we're letting you know we are pulling the plug from these games in January. You will no longer be able to play these games, access the content, or use anything you've purchased previously in them. They are rendered completely useless at this point. But don't worry, there's a new game for you to buy after this that you can come and purchase that full price from us. And that one will probably last forever, right? On top of those three games shutting down in January 2026, we also have a fourth game from EA, Real Racing 3. And that got announced to be shutting down March 19th, 2026. So within the first 3 months of 2026, Electronic Arts is shutting down 4 online live service games. Yeah, that seems real fair to customers. Ross from Stop Killing Games was right. I've talked about this in great detail and explained it in previous videos. Make sure to check those out. But the games that are being created by these developers should not be allowed to be remotely destroyed. Offline modes matter, and ownership should mean something. Many of these companies, Ubisoft comes to mind in addition to EA, where they want you to own nothing and expect to be happy with that. They want to be able to sell you an online membership, a digital continuation of purchasing every single month, just to be able to continue to play the latest and greatest of what they're creating, regardless of what you liked in the past. And anyone that's been playing games for longer than 10 minutes would tell you, hey, there's some games that I've played in the past that I actually enjoyed more than the games that you're making now. But you're taking away the ability for people to play those games again. Almost like you're removing the memory of, oh, that never actually existed. Oh, that nostalgia that you have was not that good, but never go back and try to play those games because we want to direct what you're able to play in the future. Yikes! This should matter to every gamer, not just EA fans, not just live service players. If this is allowed, any publisher can erase any history that they've created in the past, and the purchases can expire at a whim. They don't follow any rules. There are no regulations. These people in charge of these corporations have full control and autonomy of whatever the hell they're selling to people. It doesn't feel very fair to customers who are purchasing these games. It should matter to you because of not just preservation, but consumer rights and trust in these organizations. These suits that are running them don't give a damn about the games that are coming out. And by the time they run the organization into the ground, they're already jumping out of the burning plane with their golden parachute and they're perfectly fine. They don't care. In a weird way, it kind of is up to the gamers to push back against these people that are heading these organizations and don't care about the games that they're making. This isn't going to be the future of gaming. unless people sit back and allow it to happen. That's why, in a weird way, it's like the activists took over the game industry, pushed their agenda forward, and gamers in gaming just wanted to play their games. They didn't want trouble, they didn't want to fight people, they just want to play their games. But then the activists start changing what the games were. The people running the organization start changing what the rules were, start removing what you're able to do, start removing the games and what you're able to even play. And it gets to the ironic point of creating an activist out of people that just want to play their games in order to get back to just being able to play their games. The irony of becoming an activist to fight against the activists that are destroying your hobby. At the end of the day, the irony is real. That's what it's becoming. And while I don't consider myself an activist, nor most of you probably don't either, if you're fighting back against this in a weird way, I guess it kind of makes us all an activist. But I'd like to think it's because we care about our hobby, the thing that we grew up with and that we love. And what it's turning into now is just depressing. I don't know. At some point, this all stops being about one bad launch or one failed experiment and starts being about the direction of an entire industry. When a publisher like EA can shut down 4 games in a matter of months and completely erase a BioWare title from existence, it's a massive warning sign, not just a coincidence. This is exactly why movements like Stop Killing Games matter, because if players don't push back now, this becomes the norm. Games have never been disposable licenses that expire when a balance sheet says so. If gamers don't draw the line now, companies will keep erasing the past and calling it progress. And I, for one, will never stand for that. And I'd like to think most of you guys out there would agree with that. But at the same time, I'd also like to think we've made massive inroads with the community and people starting to push back and speak back, not just speaking with their wallets, but many people in the community starting YouTube channels or social media accounts pushing back against this onslaught from these big suits in corpo, because they've shown time and time again that they really don't care about the future of the industry. Anyways, I'll leave that one there. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing. Smash, smash, smash,